Welcome to week 4 of this course, Digital Media. In the last 3 weeks, you might have learned the basics of the medium, then its relationship with the society, then issues of penetration, digital inequalities, and particularly we discussed about the digital medium as well as internet penetration in the global as well as in the Indian context. In the week 4, we are going to discuss about how this medium is to be or being regulated, or what are the issues while regulating this international global reach of this medium. You are familiar with many mainstream media. I'll try to give simple comparison between the mainstream media and internet, how these communication systems are being regulated. Newspapers, television channels, radio and films, they are restricted within the country, or they'll some channels or some films, they'll go beyond the particular national boundaries, but they'll stick to the particular country's rules and regulations, legal and ethical consideration. All the newspaper, they'll apply for RNI number if it is in Indian context, then they'll take approval for getting the newsprint on the other allied materials. Similarly, channels, television channels, whether it's Indian channel or international channel, they need to take uplinking or downlinking permission from the ministry. Similarly, for the radio, they have to take the frequency from the public property, particularly from the government. They have to take they need to get the allotment of frequencies. Similar like that, the films, particularly commercial films, public viewing, they need to take the certification from the Central Board of Certification, Censor Board, like that. So you know that how the regulatory mechanisms are put in place while monitoring the performance of medium, and through that mechanism there are regulatory bodies, press council or broadcasting council or censor board, where they can address it, or where they will monitor. The councils are autonomous bodies, they monitor the performance of media. So these are the system, already in existing system about the mainstream media. Come to the online platform, internet. There is a lot of difference between the newspaper, film and the television channels. Here, the internet is not owned by any particular entity, and it's not confined to one particular country, and it's not about only news, it's not only about entertainment, it's not only about giving the videos. It has, as we have seen in the first 2 weeks, it has a public performance, as well as it can be used for private conversation, private communication, and it cutting across the boundaries. And you may communicate with the other person. The person may be from your own country or from outside, and you may take the service from another website which is not belongs to your country. And similarly, the channels or news delivery platform or all the operations, whatever happening, is not particularly confined to any particular country, because country, the particular nation state, they used to have their constitutional framework applicable to their entire country. If the internet is confined to that country, then it's easy to monitor that, regulate that. But this is a medium which is little different from the mainstream media. The question comes, then who will regulate? Who will own? Who will operate? Who will regulate this medium? That's called internet governance. And that's precisely this week topic. We are dealing with the policies and regulations. And we have taken up 3 main areas for this week. One is internet governance. Second, we are going to discuss about international policy frameworks for ICT penetrations and how to take the ICT into the different segments of the society, international ITU. Then we will come to the national perspective, national policy framework on internet penetration and policy framework of Government of India and other public and private entities while dealing with this medium. So that you will see the 3 different set of video presentations, and all these are being covered in the study materials. We'll come to this presentation, and this presentation is being divided into three segments in this part 1 and 3 in part 2. In this part 1 presentation, we are going to deal about the need for internet governance. I gave a brief background about comparison of mainstream media and the digital platform, and what is the need for that, and what definition of internet governance and process of internet governance. In the part 2 of this presentation, we will talk about the areas in which the internet governance is more required, and it is not about technicality. There are many more application side then, and application side means who will control that, who will regulate that, who will own that, and then basic principles of internet governance, and who are the people involved in the internet governance. Already in 25 years we are working with this platform. There are systems, there is a system, and you and me, we are accessing this video, and there is already a lot of groundwork has been done that. So we will talk about who are the people currently involved in that, and what their role and what needs to be done on this area. So this is a whole the 2 presentation we are talking about governing the internet. It's not a government owned, it's a governance, it's a managing, regulating the international global reach and online technology enabled platform. See, you are into the week 4 and have seen the last 3 weeks we were discussing about multiple dimensions of this platform digital medium, and it's very fast because of technologies being involved and the digital technology, and it's with digital communication process of pocket switching and different protocols. There is a very less chances of generation loss and less chances of loss of information, and it's being reproduced as it is in a different platform, and the gap, the geographical gap is immaterial many times, and it's not confined to any particular geographical location. It's a global reach, and the amount of information now we are producing, because we have seen the earlier last week thing, nearly about half of the global population currently connected. Some countries it may be little higher, and some countries may be lesser. In overall, half of the population, nearly about 4 billion people, are currently accessing the internet through mobile or through computer, through laptop, through social media, video and text materials. The quantum of information is being shared among this 50% of the global population is enormous, greater volumes. It's a fast global reach and greater volume. Now you can understand the significance of this medium compared with the mainstream media. And it's not necessarily we are using the browser based applications. Now applications have become a standalone. It doesn't require the internet. It doesn't require a browser platform website particularly. You don't need a browser to access many services because of independent standalone. And with the mobile standalone applications become popular, and with the smartphone penetrations and browser based activities are reducing, and more interactions are happening through mobile apps. And similarly, with the cyberspace, with the infrastructure and standalone applications, with multiple platform, online application platform, people are using this platform for social movements. We have seen very good, very considerable level of experiences and examples in the last couple of decades. And specifically this medium giving a platform for marginalized people to give their voices. We have separate unit on marginalized section and internet. That will be sometime in the week 9 or week 9 we are talking about marginalized section, and we will deal more detail about this voice. But here I am giving a point saying that this platform provided enormous support for many sections to mobilize and carry forward certain social movements. And similarly, the platform gave a space for the marginalized to give their voice. Similarly, this is a positive side of the utilization of the platform. The negative side is the platform the digital platform is being used extensively by the powerful groups, either corporates or the government controlled machineries, using this platform for propaganda and misinformation. There are many cases that came in the last couple of years' time, and this is one aspect of the fake news. Misinformation, disinformation on different context, different scenario, the platform aggravates the dissemination of this kind of fake news. That's one of the negative aspect of this platform. Secondly, the individuals are being targeted very frequently. The trolling army or people not confined to any majority viewpoints are being targeted. It's being misused for the fake news propaganda, and is being utilized, and people are utilizing this platform to target certain number of people. So all these activities are happening in the positive and negative side. So all this, the global reach, standalone mobile apps, people are using this for social movements, people are using for attacking the individuals, misinformation, disinformation. And again the point is being repeated that it's not confined to one particular country. So who will control that? Who will regulate this cyberspace? Whether the government should step in to control this space, that's not possible, because not one government can play a role. It's a global reach, all the governments supposed to come, and different political scenario, political environments are existing in the different countries. Not all are the same political philosophy. The coordination among the member countries may be a challenging place. So then, particularly this is a scenario, but if you look at the historical dimension of the growth of internet, and the growth, the internet actually grown much stronger in the last 25 years without having a heavy regulation. Initially it was open, though it was very economically unviable, but it grown on its own because the infrastructure started accumulated, people having a computers and laptop with a rudimentary network and dial-up connections. It was started growing, and without much heavy regulation. Similarly, the cable television network that came in India, we got a regulation later stage, but the cable started revolutionizing the whole country. Similarly, internet also first came, then started the different rules and regulations for individual countries, and the global coordination. All this started coming after introduction of internet. But without having a heavy regulation in the initial period, and that encouraged the openness and innovation. That's why we are here right now. And similarly, the absence of heavy regulation has allowed the negative dimension also, to spread the disinformation and misinformation and manipulate the digital technology for different purposes. Actually, that happened because of not having a proper systematic regulatory mechanism. Gave a very good opportunity for the system to grow in a very innovative way and gave openness. Similarly, on the other side, and there is many people, many powerful people that started manipulating the technology for different purposes. And recently, in the last 10-15 years, you might have noticed that the unprecedented power concentrated in the hands of private technology companies. That's what we were discussing in the earlier lectures about the powerful groups, either the corporate group or the political power. They'll try to occupy, they try to control the communication power. Internet and digital media is one of the powerful group. Powerful means in the sense the level of reach, the level of influence it has. So that's now if you look at the major service providers in the online, all confined or owned by few multinational agencies. So that's another dimension to the cyberspace. And what happens if the positive and negative aspect are equally fighting for owning of the cyberspace, and particularly, but medium is meant for society. And that's what we were discussing earlier. Media association means where the media become one of the social institutions, unlike the earlier where it's gone with the corporate and political power to disseminate information it's a more powerful earlier. Now it's being part of the society and part and parcel of the society, and it has a public and private functions, the digital medium. So somewhere the many stakeholders needs to be involved in controlling and regulating this platform. That is the need for internet governance. And like to quote the famous OECD document. It was released in 2014-15. It gave kind of strong points related to the need for internet governance. Some of the major highlights of this document for need for strong internet governance, the points are basically we need internet governance to promote and protect the global free flow of information. That's what I was telling. All the member states, different governments across the continents, they don't have the systematic or similar framework to allow the internet, allow the service providers, allow the websites. It's different parameters are applied in different government setup, and some of the countries are highly open, some of the countries are moderately open, and another set of countries, they are highly controlled, they are controlling the internet system. And but the governance, internet governance needs to work on promoting the global free flow of information. That's why this internet governance is needed. The internet governance should promote the open and distributed interconnected nature of the internet. It's not confined to any particular group. It needs to be open, it needs to be interconnected, and it should promote investment and competition in high-speed networks and services. That's if the better infrastructure, better services, better the services, better utilization. And the internet governance should promote and enable the cross-border delivery of services, not confined to one country. But here there's many governments may need to involve their economic policy needs to be fine-tuned, and it should work in. Now you can understand that internet governance is not simply the technology based. There are many more social institutions are involved while regulating the cyberspace. So one of the such is the delivery of services should be cross-border, and all the governments involved in the cross-border delivery services mutually agree on these conditions. And for that, there's a close coordination of all the member states needed for internet governance. Similarly, the internet governance should encourage multi-stakeholder cooperation in the policy development process. This is not a one country's ownership or one continent's ownership. This is a platform for everybody. And all the major stakeholders should involve, they should have a proper cooperation for framing or implementing policy development process. And more importantly, we need a internet governance to ensure transparency and fairness and accountability. Similarly, the internet governance, it will enable or it will strengthen the consistency and effectiveness in privacy protection at a global level. We have seen the online privacy issues in the earlier lectures of what are the major challenges in the societal level or individual level, and how our data is being utilized for commercial purposes as well as for the surveillance purposes. And it's not confined to one country. Our data is visible or available to many stakeholders. They may not come from one particular country, one particular regulatory agencies, maybe from international level, maybe from the regional level. So the privacy issue, privacy protection needs to be strengthened. Consistency and effectiveness across the platform. And maximize the internet governance should enable the individual empowerment process. As we discussed in the earlier slides of this presentation, saying that the marginalized section got a platform to air their voices, and this platform meant for both public and private functions. And only the empowered people, empowerment means the person should have skills and competency and know what are the rights allowed, what are the rights available to the person to get the information, to participate in the information and utilize the information for the knowledge and own environment. The internet governance should facilitate that part. And similarly, it should promote creativity and innovation, and the 25 years of experience of internet is that's what being proven, that the openness without heavy regulation that provided the expansion of this platform into global reach and provided the creative presentation and creative utilization of technology for multiple services. And the limit, the internet governance wanted to limit the internet intermediary liability. Intermediaries are the people who are facilitating the services. For example, internet service provider. They are not the content, they are not generating the content. Their purpose is basically connecting you and others into the internet. They are the intermediary. The service providers are somebody else and service utilized by somebody else. They are in between. They are connecting the two dots. So, but ultimately they are also into the loop of communication process. The internet governance wants to limit the liability of the intermediary institutions, infrastructure facility providers. And similarly, the internet governance needed the cooperation to promote internet security. And the secure and reliable internet and with the highest speed, that's a main challenge, particularly for the developing countries perspective, because that provides the proper environment to provide the better services and give appropriate priority to the enforcement efforts. This is another challenge, the interference from the government regulatory system in monitoring and regulating the cyberspace. These are the broad areas in which the internet governance can supposed to play a major role in terms of institutional perspective, in terms of individual perspective. Now we will come to the definition of internet governance. We have seen the background, why do we need internet governance. Internet governance does not mean that it is the government own mechanism, it is a multi-stakeholder approach. Many players are involved, many players from not necessarily from one country, from across the countries involved, and the need for internet governance. What are the areas in which internet governance can play a major role in facilitating the services for the institution as well as individuals. Now we look at the broad areas and the definitions, the meaning and the application side of internet governance in the normal day-to-day life. Internet governance is a broad term and has many definitions depending on the context. The development of norms and principles relating to the how internet functions, it's based on the role and functions of group of stakeholders that determines the norms and principles. So that's how the internet governance is being growing from the initial stage to the current position that. And primarily internet governance rely on many levels of conversation, mutual agreements on the areas of access, policy and content. These are the three primary areas in which internet governance is supposed to play a major role. We have seen the earlier slides about the needs, and that mostly they are talking about the high level internet access, security level, privacy issues and a policy framework for service providers and the content. Content is being generated by each and everyone, is unlike the mainstream media. Right. And the definition of internet governance, the scope of internet governance got a prominence in after 2005 UN sponsored World Summit on the Information Society, in which it was defined as internet governance as the development and application by governments, the private sector and civil society in their respective roles of shared principles, norms and rules, decision making procedures and programs that shape the evolution and use of internet. Multi-stakeholder approach and common rules and regulation. That's what the prime concerns of the UN sponsored World Summit on Information Society's definition of internet governance. Now we have seen that a need and the definitions and the basic background about the internet governance in its applicability in regulating the the global reach, the fast medium, and the medium has a enormous information inflow and outflow. Now in the next presentation, we will talk about the process and the area and who are the people involved in the internet governance. Thank you.